Hello, my dear students. How are you? I hope that you are all doing well. Now it's time for our sixth lecture in semester 3. In this lecture, we're going to cover comprehension and phonics. The comprehension is unit 3, week 1. So, in this lecture or at the end of this lecture, you will be able to read and spell words with R-controlled vowels. You will deduce the author's point of view. You will find the meaning of unfamiliar words using context clues, and you will recall the features of genre fantasy. Your resources for this lecture: phonics practice book, page 61 to 65, exercises in this lecture, and the reading writing workshop, pages 166 to 169. So in our table of content, first we're going to start with the phonics, the R-controlled vowels. Two, we're going to explain the vocabulary words of the lesson at the library. And the three goals, which are genre, vocabulary strategy, and comprehension skill, author's point of view. Let's start with the phonics, which is R-controlled vowels. Again, we repeat that when we say R-controlled vowels, we mean the R consonant that controls over the sound of the vowel. This time, we're going to take the sound er. The er sounds in short are an R-controlled vowel sound. Okay, the er sound is written or spelled how? It's written as ER or IR, OR, or UR. As example here as in shirt. So the R consonant controls over the vowel sound to make the sound er. Let's have let's read the phonics list. Herb, person, sternly, serpent, worse, pearl, dirty, birth, shirt, twirl, swirl, purse, curl, curve, curb, hurl, turkey, turnip, purpose, blurt. Let's have a look over some meanings of the words. Herb is any plant with leaves, seeds, or flowers used for flavoring food, medicine, or perfume. Sternly, in a way that is difficult and puts pressure on someone or something. Serpent is a large snake. Twirl is to spin quickly and lightly round, especially repeatedly. Swirl, move in twisting pattern, as in the picture. Curb is the street or the sidewalk or the pavement. Curl, something in the shape of a spiral or coil, especially a lock of hair. We say that he has a curly hair. Curl. Hurl, throw with great force, as in the picture. Turnip, a root vegetable. Blurred, unable to see or be seen. Okay, let's solve this exercise to know more about the meanings of the words. Write the spelling word that belongs with the other words in the group. For example, if I want to say life and death, life, death, there is a word here that goes with this group of words. What is it? Birth. Birth belongs to the same group of the life and death. 2. Spice, seasoning. Spice and seasoning, we use them to flavor food. What do we use else to flavor food? Herb. 3. Child, a woman. What belongs to the group of the child and the woman? The person. They are people. They are persons. 4. A reason, a goal. When you have a reason, you have a goal. We say that you have a purpose. 5. A street, a sidewalk, or a pavement, if you remember. Then we are talking about the curb. 6. The monster, snake. What do we call a different, a second or a third type that belongs to this group? The serpent. 7. A bag or pocketbook. Bag, pocketbook. Purse. Purse is like a very small bag that you put money in it. Messy, muddy, something that's messy and it's muddy. It is dirty. For sure, it's dirty. 9. Firmly, sharply. You're very firm and sharp and straight. Then it is sternly. 10. Bend or turn. It is curve. To bend or to turn something is to curve. Let's continue now. Write the spelling word that best completes each sentence. We still have the words in the box here. Number 11. Are you feeling better or than yesterday? Are you feeling better or worse than yesterday? Worse would mean bad. 12. Her tight would not straighten. Tight would not straighten. So there's something that is not straight. Her tight curl. 13. The leaves around on a windy day. What do they do on windy days? The leaves swirl. 14. Is a root vegetable just as a carrot is. A root vegetable, which is a turnip. 15. My sight as I fought back tears. My sight, when there are a lot of tears, then your sight will be blurred. My sight blurred as I fought back tears. 16. Did you see the drum major hair button? The drum major twirl hair button. 17. You might find a inside an oyster. You might find a pearl inside an oyster. Oyster is an animal that we find like a shell in the sea. What do we find in it? We find a very beautiful jewelry which is called the pearl. 18. Do you eat for Thanksgiving dinner? Do you eat turkey? Turkey, which is a kind of chicken. 19. The tag inside made my neck itch. The tag inside my shirt. And the last one, I wanted the ball as far as I could throw it. I wanted to hurl the ball. So guys, we have finished from the phonics part. Let's start with the vocabulary part. Our vocabulary words for this time are acquaintance, cautiously, complimentary, jumble, logical, scornfully, scrounging, trustworthy. Acquaintance. Acquaintance is someone you know, but who is not a close friend. So you know someone, you know some people, they are not close to you, so we call them acquaintance. Joe talked to his new acquaintance, Tony, hoping to get to know him better. Since he doesn't know him, he's not very close to him. He knows him, but he's not very close. So he is an acquaintance. So he's talking to him in order to become more than an acquaintance. Cautiously, to do something cautiously means to do it with care, okay, with great care. Eric gently and cautiously touched the owl's feathers. Complementary. If something is complementary, it makes something whole or complete. To make something complete, then it is complementary. Peanut butter and jelly taste good because they are complementary foods. They complete each other, the peanut butter and the jelly. Jumble. A jumble is a confused mixture or condition. When things are messed up, they are confused. We have a confused mixture. We say that there is a jumble. The jumble of masks and snorkels lay tangled together in the bottom of the boat. Logical. Something that is logical makes sense and is based on reason. On a multiple choice test, the girl tried to figure out the most logical answers. You have to find the most reasonable answers, the most correct answers. Scornfully, if you say or do something scornfully, you say it or do it in a way that shows dislike or that you are making fun. So if you're doing something with feeling that you don't like it, then you do it scornfully. Scrounging, when someone is scrounging for something, he or she is trying to obtain or collect something with difficulty. So when you're trying to have something with a difficulty, we say that you're scrounging. Tina saw the cat scrounging through the overflowing trash can. Trustworthy. To be trustworthy means to be reliable. So someone can rely on you, can depend on you. When you are mountain climbing, it's good to have a trustworthy partner. Use a word from the box to answer each question based on the vocabulary words. Number one, what were the mice doing when they were looking on the ground for food? They were looking on the ground for food. They wanted to obtain something with a difficulty. Then they were scrounging. Two, which word would you use to describe a mess? What would we use to describe a mass? A jumble. 3. What do you call a person you know? Someone that you just know? Acquaintance. How was the judge acting when she told the politician he had broken the law? Was acting scornfully. What is another word for carefully? Cautiously. How would you describe someone you can rely on, you can depend on? We say he or she is trustworthy. 7. Which word would describe someone who is very sensible, who thinks a lot with his mind? We say logical. What is another word for making whole, for making something complete? Complementary. Okay, now let's talk about the other skills that we have to cover in this lecture. The author's point of view. First of all, the author's point of view, what do we mean by it? Every story has a narrator or a person who tells the story. So whenever we read a story, there should be a person who is telling this story. The narrator's point of view tells how the narrator feels or thinks about the characters or events. In other words, we can say that the point of view tells us if the narrator was a character in the story or not, he is just a reteller. When the narrator uses a pronoun such as he, she, or they, the story has a third person narrator. So when most of the times we find the pronouns he, she, or they, first of all, we say that the story has a third person narrator, which means that the narrator is not a character in the story, he is just telling us the story. Genre fantasy. We're going to cover a fantasy text. What do you mean by fantasy? Fantasy includes invented characters and settings. The characters and settings could not be real, they could not be in real life, they could not happen. Also, the fantasy has elements that could not exist in real life. The elements or the events could not happen in real life, and often it has illustrations, which means drawings. And the last skill, which is the context clues, as we every time repeat it. As you read at the library, you may come across words you do not know. So, how do we figure out the meaning of the unfamiliar words? We have to look for context clues in the sentences to find the meaning of the unfamiliar words. At the library, let's read our text, our reading lesson, page 166 in your reading writing workshop. Let's see what the fantasy is talking about. Rick Dodson admired the pink and orange sky as he waved goodbye to Mrs. Rio and locked the library door. As the sun began its descent behind the Blue Ridge Mountains, Rick started walking to his office to collect his jacket. Seeing a jumble of books on a reading table, he sighed and began to gather them into a neat pile. No, he stated firmly, and returned the books to the table. Not tonight. The librarian never left any books out, but today was his birthday, which meant a brisk walk to the Cupcake Cafe for a birthday treat before it closed at 5:30 p.m. That evening, as he sat at home in his book-filled living room, Rick thought about the older friends who had called to wish him a happy birthday. If only this job had not required him to move halfway across the country. After 6 months here, he had made more than one new acquaintance, but not real friends yet. Books are my friends, he thought, which reminded him of the books sitting on the table at the library. I might as well go back tonight and shelve them, he decided. He entered the library and flicked on the lights. Immediately he noticed a book, Small World, face down on the floor. What's going on? He muttered as he bent down and cautiously lifted up the book. Ah! He yelled and dropped the book. Four miniature figures scrambled out of the way as the book landed on the floor with a thud. Mr. Dodson, exclaimed a breathless voice, we were enchanted to make your acquaintance. What? Who? Rick stammered. We're the Bookers. I'm William. This is Emily and our children, Harry and Clementine. By the way, happy birthday. You know it's my birthday. Naturally, we read your file when you arrived 6 months ago. It's only logical that we would want to learn about the new librarian. You were scrounging through my files? Rick said, collapsing into a nearby chair. He rubbed his eyes, but the tiny figures were still there, looking up at him expectantly. Suddenly, the nimble bookers began shimmying up the table. "We're absolutely trustworthy," Emily assured him. "Haven't you heard of bookers?" William asked. "Every library has bookers." "We ensure everything runs smoothly," said Emily. "Seen any mice around? They love to know on everything." Rick slowly shook his head. "I do nightly rodent patrols," Harry stated proudly. "Those mice run at the sight of me," he added scornfully. "Do your chairs ever squeak?" inquired Clementine. "No, that's because we oil them." Rick considered the past 6 months. He hadn't seen one mouse, his chairs never squeaked, and his pencils were never dull. "The pencils?" he asked. "We sharpen them nightly," William replied. "But why?" asked Rick. "Look around," exclaimed William. "We work and read. Bookers and libraries are complementary. We belong together." "To be honest, Mr. Dodson," said Emily, "we wanted to meet you because we thought that we could be friends." Rick Dodson grinned. "Call me Rick, and I'd love to be friends," he said. Rick eventually made other new friends, but he still spent many evenings with the Bookers. He bought a toy car for Harry's rodent patrol, and he read scary stories aloud to Clementine. Every year on his birthday, he brought cupcakes for his friends to share with him. So now, after we had read the selection, let's continue with the point of view graphic organizer. Here, they gave us the first two details. Rick went out for his birthday treat by himself. Second detail, Rick thought about his old friends who had called to wish him a happy birthday. Rick eventually made new friends. So, what would the point of view be of the writer? Rick misses his old friends and wants new friends. Read each passage, underline the context clues that help you figure out the meaning of each word in bold. Then write the word's meaning on the line. Passage 1. The tree looked and saw a baby bluebird there, trembling. He was alone in a nest of twigs and feathers. The baby bird was shaking with fright. So, what do you think the meaning of trembling is based on the context clues in this paragraph? So when I read the last sentence, the baby bird was shaking with fright, I can figure out that trembling means shaking. And the context clue here, shaking with the fright. Number two, the tiny bird jumped. He looked surprised, startled by the tree's questions. Startled, we have to figure out the meaning of the startled. If you read before it, we said he looked surprised, startled by the tree's question. So here we can know that startled means surprised. "Sure," said the squirrel. He dashed into his home in the tree. He reappeared just as fast with his paws full of food. The squirrel ran again to the bird's nest and tossed in nuts and berries. So dashed, I think that it means to run quickly because we said that the squirrel ran again to the bird's nest and tossed in nuts and berries. So dashed means ran quickly. Thank you for listening, guys. I hope that you have liked the lecture. Now, if you still have any questions, keep them for the live session. Bye bye.